When the mall exploded, I lost my right hand trying to save my boyfriend, Ryan Carter. I had once been a brilliant surgeon, but now I could never hold a scalpel again. Ryan said he wanted to repay me for saving his life and publicly proposed to me. He took care of me with devotion, tending to me day after day. But when I was pregnant and about to give birth, he tied me up in a remote mountain area and doused me in gasoline. Why did you have to interfere? His voice was cold and filled with resentment. You just had to stop me during the explosion, didn't you? His eyes burned with hatred. You're the reason her died? Do you know how much her suffered? You should repay that suffering 100-fold. As the flames consumed me, I finally understood. He had never truly loved me. He had always resented me for stopping him from saving his childhood sweetheart. His proposal, his care, his love, they had all been a lie. He had only ever wanted revenge. Then, I opened my eyes. I was back on the day of the explosion. My right hand was still tightly clutching Ryan's, refusing to let go. Let go of me, Emily. His furious voice snapped me out of my daze. Mandy is still inside. I have to save her. He glared at me, his face twisted in desperation. In that moment, I didn't hesitate. I let go of his hand. In my past life, I had held on to Ryan with all my strength, dragging him out of the explosion. To protect him, I had been struck unconscious by falling steel beams. Blood pooled around me. When I woke up in the hospital, my right wrist was empty. Realizing I would never be able to perform surgery again, tears streamed down my face. It was then that Ryan proposed to me. He knelt before me, his eyes filled with what I thought was sincerity, saying he would devote his life to repaying my kindness. After we got married, he became the perfect husband in everyone's eyes. Under his careful care, I slowly pulled myself together, overcame countless hardships, and even miraculously secured a $500,000 a year job. Soon, I saved enough money to get a prosthetic, allowing me to live like a normal person. We even had a child together. I thought we were about to become a happy family of 3, and that Ryan was the light that had guided me through my darkest times. Until our wedding anniversary. That night, I drank the fruit juice he had prepared for me without a second thought. When I woke up, I was tightly bound, my body drenched in the pungent smell of gasoline. Mandy died because of you. His voice was eerily calm, but his hands trembled as he gripped the lighter. You should never have interfered. If you hadn't stopped me back then, I could have saved her. The once gentle and considerate Ryan now stood before me, his face twisted with madness. It was only then that I understood he had never let go of his hatred. He had never forgiven me for pulling him back during the explosion, for preventing him from saving the woman he truly loved. I stared at his once familiar, now terrifyingly unfamiliar face. My heart shattered. You destroyed my love, he whispered. Now I will destroy you. His voice was laced with hatred, each word stabbing deep into my chest like a blade. The fire spread quickly, devouring me in an instant. I burned alive, my body consumed by the flames, dying in excruciating pain. But now, let go of me, Emily. Ryan's furious roar echoed in my ears, his face exactly the same as in my memories. I met his desperate gaze and felt nothing. This is what you wanted, isn't it? I asked coldly. Without hesitation, I nodded, then turned and ran toward the emergency exit. In my past life, after the explosion, the mall was in chaos. I had been too focused on saving lives to hear Ryan's words clearly. I had never realized that after all our years together, his heart had never belonged to me. Since he loved Mandy so much, then I would grant his wish. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw him frozen in place, as if he hadn't expected me to actually run away. But this time, I wouldn't make the same mistake. After the explosion, I followed the other survivors to the hospital. Looking at my unharmed hands, I covered my face and sobbed silently in relief. Thank goodness. This time, I'm whole. My hands were unscathed. I could still be a doctor. As for Ryan, he got what he wanted. He successfully saved his childhood sweetheart, but the price he paid was his legs. The collapsing walls had crushed them beyond recognition, his blood pooling beneath him. He passed out instantly from the pain. His fate was even worse than mine in my past life. Ryan truly loved Mandy. Even as he was carried out of the mall unconscious, he never let go of her hand. That moment was captured by on-site reporters and broadcasted live across major platforms. Many people online were moved, commenting, Even in this state, he still won't let go. That's real love. This girl must be so touched. Wishing them happiness forever. Listening to the murmurs around me, I couldn't help but laugh. In my past life, Mandy had constantly inserted herself between Ryan and me, using her childhood sweetheart status as an excuse. She would call him in the middle of the night, scared of thunderstorms, demanding company. She'd cling to him when drunk, even kissing him. The worst was when she showed up half-dressed in his bed. I had subtly reminded Ryan more than once, but he always brushed me off like I was paranoid. We're just like siblings, Emily. Stop being so jealous. But when Mandy tragically died, all my warnings were twisted into accusations. I became the villain who had stood between them. Ryan resented me with every fiber of his being. Before setting me on fire, he had smiled and whispered, "When I was waiting to be rescued, I personally crushed your hand. Mandy is dead, but you're still alive. How do you deserve that?" His voice was filled with hatred. "You should suffer 100 times worse." He sneered. "Losing just one hand, that was too easy on you." His curse still echoed in my ears. Ryan had only ever cared about Mandy. In his eyes, I was just the cruel, jealous woman standing in the way of his true love. But now Ryan had lost both his legs. I wondered how much of Mandy's true love would remain now. After all, Ryan himself had said it. Who would ever love a cripple? While I stood there quietly, someone else broke down completely. Outside the emergency room, Ryan's stepmother sobbed hysterically. She clutched at my clothes, her nails digging into my arm. "Emily, why are you standing here unharmed while Ryan is suffering?" She wailed. "Wasn't he the love of your life? How could you be so cruel and just stand by while he was dying?" Her eyes blazed with fury, as if she wanted to tear me apart. That look, it overlapped so perfectly with my past memories. Back then, when she first found out I had saved Ryan, she was overjoyed, swearing to treat me like her own daughter. But the moment Ryan proposed to me, her expression changed in an instant. "My son is outstanding. How could he marry a cripple?" She believed I should be grateful just to be near Ryan, never daring to expect more. Behind my back, she had cursed me, saying I should have died in that explosion. I had endured it all in silence for Ryan's sake. But now, looking at her, I realized this mother and son were the same, cold-hearted, selfish, and cruel. "What kind of person watches their own boyfriend die and does nothing?" she screeched, throwing herself on the floor in hysterics. "He's my only son. How am I supposed to live now?" A crowd started gathering. Some pulled out their phones, ready to record. If this got uploaded online, I would be condemned, humiliated, labeled a heartless woman who abandoned her lover in his moment of need. She was doing this on purpose, hoping to ruin me. But I wasn't going to let her. I took a deep breath and pinched my thigh hard, forcing tears to well up. Then, with a sob, I let them fall. "Mrs. Carter, it's not that I didn't want to save him. I couldn't stop him." My voice trembled, my sobs gut-wrenching. Ryan said he had to save Mandy, that he'd rather die with her. I'm his girlfriend. I love him so much. How could I bear to hold him back? I cried uncontrollably, my wails echoing down the hallway. The spectators' eyes lit up with interest, eager to watch the drama unfold. For a split second, his stepmother's face stiffened. She had clearly not expected me to counter her accusations with my own display of emotion. Just as she opened her mouth to retaliate, the emergency room door swung open. Her face paled. Without another word, she shoved past me and rushed inside. Ryan lay on the hospital bed, unconscious, covered in blood. His once powerful legs were now wrapped in thick bandages, but even through them, dark patches of blood seeped through. "Ryan," his stepmother wailed in agony, collapsing beside him. "Why did you have to save her? How could you do this? Mom can't live without you." Ryan's face was pale, yet he smiled with happiness. "It's just my legs," he murmured weakly. "As long as I saved Mandy, even if it cost me my life, I have no regrets." His stepmother wept beside him, her sorrow overwhelming. The room fell into complete silence. Then, someone in the crowd suddenly recognized him. "Wait a minute, isn't he the guy from the news? The one who held onto his girlfriend's hand even while unconscious?" The realization spread quickly, and soon, angry voices rose among the onlookers. "So he's actually a cheating bastard?" someone scoffed. "And people were calling it true love?" I didn't even need to defend myself. Strangers were already piecing the truth together on their own, exposing every bit of the injustice I had endured. Their voices grew louder, filled with righteous fury. Ryan, already weakened, couldn't handle the backlash. He passed out on the spot and was immediately rushed back into the emergency room. Outside, his stepmother wailed uncontrollably. But now, people were looking at her with disgust. They quietly moved away, unwilling to get involved. Meanwhile, the media had gathered outside the hospital. Ryan's dramatic rescue, along with his unconscious grip on Mandy's hand, had gone viral. News outlets portrayed him as a selfless hero, a man willing to sacrifice everything for love. Public sentiment had reached a fever pitch. "Wow, a man like this still exists," one comment read. "If you meet a hero like him, marry him immediately." "This is true love," another gushed. "I believe in love again." Seeing the public swept up in this delusion, I kindly pointed them in the right direction. Before long, I was watching a live stream featuring Mandy, who had only suffered minor injuries. Tears welled in her eyes as she faced the camera. "I will always be by Ryan's side," she vowed, her voice trembling. "He's my everything." Under the gaze of countless viewers, she gritted her teeth and handed over several $1,000s for his medical expenses. The comment section exploded with praise. "She's so devoted. What a perfect couple. True love always wins." But I remembered the Mandy from my past life, the one who had laughed while talking about Ryan with her friends. "Are you kidding?" she had sneered. "He's just a convenient backup. I'll dump him whenever I get bored." From the very beginning, she had been toying with him. Yet in Ryan's eyes, she was pure and innocent. He despised me for interfering in their so-called love story. When I had been burned alive, screaming in agony, he had spat hateful words at me. I'd rather die with Mandy than live without her. Now, fate had given them their wish. They were bound together, whether they liked it or not. But reality was never that simple. The cost of treating burns alone was astronomical, reaching thousands per day. And Ryan had lost both legs. The cost of rehabilitation, future surgeries, and prosthetics would only pile higher. Neither of them had a steady income. They were just broke college students. What would happen when the money ran out? How long would their true love survive then? I was almost eager to see it unfold. The day Ryan finally saw Mandy's true colors, how devastated would he be? That moment came sooner than I expected. After leaving the hospital, I contacted my mentor immediately, expressing my desire to pursue further studies. Once I received approval, I threw myself back into the laboratory. For the first time in a long while, I was back on track. Even in my past life, despite losing my hand, I had never stopped learning, constantly expanding my knowledge. Much of it was already ingrained in my mind, so picking it up again was surprisingly easy. Within 2 weeks, I submitted a flawless research report, solving a problem that had plagued our research team for months. My senior colleagues were stunned. My mentor, impressed, immediately secured a fully funded scholarship for me to study abroad. In addition to various grants and research stipends, I received a total of $200,000. When my colleagues heard the news, they were thrilled for me. To celebrate, they took me out to a restaurant. I hadn't expected to run into them. After their viral interview, Ryan and Mandy had become minor internet celebrities. They capitalized on the attention, constantly flaunting their perfect love online, drawing in massive engagement. People called them the epitome of true love. "True love, my ass," my senior muttered beside me, rolling her eyes. She knew the full story and felt nothing but disdain. "It's just a cheating bastard and a shameless homewrecker." I chuckled, but didn't pay them any mind. I had no interest in engaging with them. But Ryan sought me out. When I came out of the restroom, I saw him waiting in his wheelchair. He had lost a shocking amount of weight, his face dark and sunken. His once bright and arrogant demeanor was gone, replaced by a heavy, oppressive gloom. His pant legs hung loose, empty where his legs used to be. He looked utterly pitiful. I knew Ryan too well. He had always been proud, fiercely competitive, with an ego that refused to be bruised. But now, in all the love-struck videos Mandy posted online, she deliberately showcased the ugly scars on his legs to emphasize her unwavering devotion. For Ryan, this humiliation was worse than death itself. Watching his suffering filled me with nothing but satisfaction. I didn't even spare him a glance as I walked past his table. But to my surprise, he called out to me. The next words out of his mouth were absurd. Emily, I need $200,000. I stopped in my tracks, barely suppressing a laugh. I wouldn't be in this situation if it weren't for you, he continued bitterly. You owe me this money. You have to pay for my prosthetics. I turned back, staring at him as if he had lost his mind. Ryan, are you insane? His face twisted with resentment. If you had pulled me away that day, I wouldn't have ended up like this. His voice was filled with righteous indignation. I did my research. You're partly responsible for my condition. That makes you legally accountable. I was so stunned, I actually laughed. In my past life, I had saved Ryan, yet he blamed me for everything. In the end, he had me burned alive. Now in this life, I had let him go, and somehow, he still found a way to push the blame onto me. How could someone be so shameless? But Ryan seemed to mistake my silence for fear. His confidence grew, and his expression turned smug. I'm a social media star now, he sneered. If I tell my fans you left me to die, they'll tear you apart. You'll be expelled from school, your parents will be ashamed of you, and you'll have no place in society. His gaze was filled with malice, his tone dripping with threats. Destroying you would be effortless for me. For a brief moment, I thought I had misheard him. Ryan glared at me, eyes burning with anger, as if all the pain he had suffered was somehow my fault. I scoffed, arms crossed. Do you need me to remind you of what really happened? I was the one pulling you toward the exit. You were the one who refused to leave, insisting on running back to save Mandy. His jaw tightened, but before he could speak, I continued with a cold smirk. If your memory's that bad, maybe you should get your head checked instead of your legs. Ryan froze, clearly unprepared for my bluntness. His brows furrowed in frustration. But you were my girlfriend, he argued, his voice laced with disbelief. Shouldn't you have tried harder to stop me? I almost gagged. Ex-girlfriend, I corrected. So stop acting like I still owe you something. His expression darkened instantly. His hand clenched on the armrest of his wheelchair, his knuckles turning white. So you're abandoning me, just like everyone else? What else did you expect? I rolled my eyes internally. In my past life, hadn't I tried to stop him? Hadn't I risked my life, suffered severe injuries, and lost everything for him? In return, he had repaid me with betrayal, hatred, and death. This time, I wouldn't make the same mistake. Besides, I added coolly, isn't Mandy your girlfriend now? If you need money for treatment, ask her. Ryan stiffened, and before he could respond, a sickly sweet voice interrupted. That money is for our future wedding, Mandy chimed in, stepping out from behind him. She wore an expression of exaggerated grievance, her voice soft and pitiful. She barely needed to say anything before Ryan's hostility toward me evaporated. With just a few words, she had him eating out of her hand. He turned toward me, his glare returning. Even if we're not together anymore, we still had a past, he snapped. Do you really have no heart? It's just $200,000. You got a scholarship, didn't you? Why not use it to help me walk again? Mandy quickly chimed in, her voice gentle and persuasive. Think about it, Emily. Helping Ryan regain his legs would be such a meaningful thing to do. Don't you have any compassion? Ryan gazed at her as if she were a saint, completely entranced by her act. I almost laughed out loud. Should I remind you two of something? My tone was light, but my words were sharp as a knife. Ryan, I didn't stop you from running back into that fire. You made that choice on your own. I met his gaze with an icy stare. Tell me, at that moment, did you even remember who your girlfriend was? All that true love propaganda flooding the internet, did they really think I was blind? Ryan's face turned pale, and he was speechless. And you, Mandy, I said, turning my gaze to the woman who had been the catalyst for my tragic death in my past life. I curled my lips into a cold smile. I have to say, I admire you. Most mistresses slink around in the shadows, but you turned it into a badge of honor. Her expression stiffened. Your shamelessness is truly a talent, I continued, scanning her from head to toe. But don't assume everyone's as easy to fool as Ryan. Their faces froze completely. I let my eyes drift over the new Cartier and Louis Vuitton bags she carried, the Swarovski necklace glittering against her skin. You know, if you had cut back on just a couple of those luxury purchases, you probably could have paid for Ryan's prosthetics yourself. I tilted my head mockingly. Did you just not love him enough? Emily, Don't test my patience, Mandy snapped, her face turning red with anger. Having her little facade ripped away, she lost control. She raised her manicured hand, nails gleaming, ready to strike me. But before she could even touch the hem of my clothes, she was suddenly shoved aside with a force that sent her stumbling backward. That's when I noticed my senior classmates had positioned themselves in front of me. One of the girls smirked, winking at me. You were gone for a while. I had a feeling you'd run into these two cockroaches. A male senior flexed his biceps playfully. With us here, no one's laying a hand on you. They were all gym fanatics, well-built and intimidating. The moment they stepped forward like a wall of muscle, Mandy and Ryan shrank back. Fine, Mandy gritted out, biting her lip. You'll regret this, Emily. Just wait. With that, the two turned and left, unwilling to fight a losing battle. Once they were gone, my senior classmates immediately turned to me in concern. Are you okay? They asked, looking me over. After confirming I was unharmed, one of them snorted. Those two shameless idiots. How do they still have the nerve to show their faces around you? They're doing this on purpose to provoke you. I smiled, shaking my head. They won't last. Even though Mandy had tried to hide it, I had caught glimpses of impatience and contempt in the way she glanced at Ryan. She didn't even bother to help him, as he struggled to push his wheelchair, his forehead beaded with sweat. If that was true love, then I was the Queen of England. She was just in it for the fame. Social media influence was a goldmine, and she wasn't about to give up on such a lucrative opportunity. But Ryan, the fool, couldn't see it. I could already imagine his face when he finally realized the truth. It would be priceless. I didn't waste another thought on them. Instead, I requested some time off from my mentor and returned to my hometown. The moment I saw my parents, my eyes filled with tears. I threw myself into their arms, sobbing uncontrollably. In my past life, after I lost my right hand, my parents had been devastated. When they found out I had sacrificed myself for Ryan, they had held their tongues, never scolding me, even though I knew they were heartbroken. Later, when Ryan proposed, everyone congratulated us, saying we were destined to be together. But my parents were the only ones who hesitated. Emily, we don't mean to be pessimistic, my mother had said gently. But now that you've lost your hand, are you sure Ryan will still marry you out of love? Listen to your mother, my father had added. That boy has a calculating look in his eyes. He doesn't seem like the right match for you. But Ryan had played his role well. Gentle, caring, and devoted. I had been completely swept up in the illusion he created, even arguing with my parents over it. Now, with my second chance, I finally understood how right they had been. As I cried in their arms, my parents' expressions immediately changed from worry to protectiveness. What happened, sweetheart? Who hurt you? My father's voice was firm. Don't be afraid, we're here for you. I shook my head, wiping my tears. I broke up with Ryan, I told them. I explained everything, how he had thrown himself into danger for Mandy without a second thought. After hearing my story, my father's brows furrowed deeply. Good. You should have left him sooner. A man who doesn't know where his priorities lie is not husband material. Since I was home, my parents insisted I stay longer, saying I had lost too much weight from studying and needed to rest. I agreed, choosing to spend some peaceful time with them in our quiet hometown, where the internet connection was weak and life was simple. But when I finally reconnected, I discovered that my name had been dragged through the mud. Online, the media had twisted the story, branding me as a heartless villainess who abandoned her injured ex-boyfriend. The public had taken the bait, and now the internet was ablaze with hatred toward me. I only found out about the online storm because of my senior. Emily, don't pay attention to the nonsense online, she told me. Just be careful for now. Don't worry, we all believe in you. That was when I realized I had become the target of a vicious smear campaign. The source of it all? A video that Mandy had uploaded a few days ago. In the video, she and Ryan sat together, holding hands, reminiscing about their sweet memories. Casually, almost as if by accident, they mentioned that Ryan once had a girlfriend, one who had also been in the mall explosion. It's just so unfair, Mandy sighed dramatically, eyes shimmering with emotion. She came out completely unharmed, but Ryan, he lost so much. She looked at him with a face full of sympathy and injustice. Ryan, on cue, put on a sorrowful yet understanding expression. It's fine. he said with a forced smile. People are selfish. She left me, and I don't blame her. They carefully avoided specific details, letting their audience fill in the gaps on their own. And just like that, I was painted as the heartless ex-girlfriend who abandoned her disabled boyfriend. Then, as if that wasn't enough, an account claiming to be Ryan's mother jumped into the comments, fanning the flames. My son's life was ruined because of her. She was right there when he got hurt, and what did she do? She ran faster than anyone else. I always knew she was no good, always acting so flirtatious, like a fox spirit. Ryan's stepmother didn't even try to hide her malicious intent. She outright exposed my personal information, my full name, my age, the university I attended, even my department and major. The fire spread fast. Before I knew it, my school was being flooded with questions. Netizens, eager to dig up dirt, began dissecting every aspect of my life. Some even speculated about my academic achievements. How did she get into an elite research team so young? There's no way she did it on merit. She probably slept her way in, or bribed someone. There's no way a woman like her got in legitimately. Another academic gold digger. A real-life seductress. Lies, slander, wild accusations, one after another, they piled up, twisting reality beyond recognition. Even though my university quickly issued an official statement, posting my academic records as proof of my qualifications, the public refused to believe it. They were too caught up in their self-righteous detective work, convinced they knew the truth. They weren't searching for justice. They just wanted entertainment. I scrolled through thousands of hateful comments, then suddenly laughed. There was no way this firestorm had happened naturally. Someone had been deliberately stirring the pot. I pulled up my blocked contacts and found Ryan's number. The number you have dialed is currently unavailable. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, I hadn't even blocked Ryan yet, but he had already blocked me first. How guilty could he be? Did he really think the truth could be erased? The truth remained the truth, no matter how hard he tried to fabricate lies. Perhaps he had forgotten. Why had we even been at the mall that day? It was supposed to be our first anniversary. I had planned a whole day of celebrations and had wanted to record a vlog to capture our memories. Ryan had agreed. But halfway through, he found out that Mandy was arguing with someone in the neighboring mall. Without a second thought, he insisted on going to check on her. That was why we had been caught in the explosion. And throughout it all, my phone had been recording. The footage was still there, untouched, saved on my device. It showed everything. His reckless determination to run to Mandy, his stepmother's vicious manipulation, and his undeniable betrayal. It was irrefutable evidence. I organized the video clips carefully. Then, without hesitation, I contacted a well-known gossip site and sold the footage to them. Of course, they knew exactly how to stir up a storm. The next night, in a live-streamed debate with an audience of hundreds of thousands, they played the video for everyone to see. In an instant, Mandy and Ryan's faces turned deathly pale. The chat exploded. Wait, hold on. So this guy rushed into danger for his mistress, and that's why he got hurt? What the hell does his ex have to do with this, then? So much for the true love hero. This is just a cheating scumbag and his homewrecker girlfriend. Of course, some diehard fans still tried to defend him. Shut up. Ryan was just trying to save someone. What's wrong with that? Saving people isn't the problem. The problem is that he lied and smeared his ex to make himself look better. He got himself injured trying to play the hero, and now he's blaming his ex? Seriously? Honestly, Emily got cheated on and humiliated, and now these two scumbags are smearing her name all over the internet? If she wasn't mentally strong, she probably would have fallen into depression by now. I used to believe them, but now I see the truth. Emily, I'm sorry for ever doubting you. Damn, these two are a perfect match. One pathological liar, one master manipulator. Just wait, karma's coming for them. And let's not forget Ryan's stepmother in the hospital, acting like only her son's life mattered. So her kid's suffering is tragic, but Emily's pain doesn't count? The audacity. Within hours, the tide on the internet completely shifted. Mandy's follower count plummeted, with tens of thousands of fans unfollowing her by the minute. The comment section on her social media was flooded with insults, forcing her to disable it entirely. But that was just the beginning of her downfall. During her time as an influencer, Mandy had aggressively taken on sponsorships and brand deals, raking in hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, with her image destroyed, the companies she had worked with began suing her for breaching contracts. She was finished. Meanwhile, I smiled as I checked my bank account. A fresh deposit of $100,000 had just landed. That was the payment I received for selling the incriminating video. Nothing was quite as satisfying as making money off scumbags. Soon, Mandy and Ryan could no longer endure the pressure. They had no choice but to come forward with a live-streamed apology. "We're really, truly sorry," Mandy sobbed in front of the camera, tears streaming down her face. "We made mistakes." She blamed everything on youthful ignorance. Ryan was struggling after losing his legs, and we were both emotionally unstable. We weren't thinking clearly. She even twisted their affair into some kind of innocent childhood bond, claiming she only developed feelings for Ryan after he saved her life. Ryan sat beside her, lowering his head in guilt, occasionally glancing down at his empty pant legs, making sure the audience noticed them. The public always had a soft spot for the weak. Their pity, combined with Mandy's use of paid bots, managed to lessen some of the backlash. But their reprieve didn't last long. Not long after, another video surfaced online. It was the footage of the two of them cornering me outside the restaurant's restroom, demanding $200,000 with smug arrogance. The high-definition video exposed every detail of their ugly behavior, and the internet erupted once again. This time, no amount of apologies could save them. No matter how many live streams they did, no matter how many times they cried, no one believed them anymore. The boy who cried wolf had finally run out of second chances. This time, it was they who were nailed to the pillar of shame. The moment I returned to campus, I invited my senior classmates out for a meal. They were the ones who had obtained the restaurant's security footage and posted it online to clear my name. They had spent countless hours defending me. "Come on, Emily, you didn't need to treat us," one of them said, waving it off. "If we just stood by and let those idiots bully you, where would our dignity go?" Despite their words, they had no problem stuffing themselves with grilled meat, piling their plates high. A female senior rolled her eyes at them before turning to me. "So, what now? Are you letting those two off the hook just like that?" Her expression darkened. "They ruined your reputation online. If I were you, I wouldn't just let it slide." She wasn't wrong. Society was always harsher on women. When men played around, they were charming playboys, but if a woman so much as stepped out of line, she was branded a gold digger, a seductress, a disgrace. Even when the truth came out, people rarely cared. Who would make up for the damage done? That night after dinner, I visited a trusted law firm and filed lawsuits against Mandy, Ryan, his stepmother, and the unethical gossip sites that had spread lies about me. But before the court summons even reached them, another scandal exploded across the internet. Mandy had been exposed for cheating. It all started when an anonymous user ranted about having a one-night stand with a certain influencer. They had agreed to split the hotel bill, but after the night was over, the influencer ghosted them, leaving them to foot the entire $5,000 bill. Angry at being scammed, the user leaked intimate photos of their night together. The internet immediately connected the dots. Mandy was the influencer. She didn't even have a chance to defend herself. Netizens quickly pieced together timelines and realized that while she was sleeping around, she was already dating Ryan. Even worse, there was an old video clip where Mandy had flaunted a hickey during a live stream. The so-called love bite from Ryan had actually been left by someone else. A few days later, passers-by spotted Mandy and Ryan fighting in public. They even started throwing punches. But since Ryan was physically weak and unable to fight back, Mandy simply kicked him off his wheelchair. He fell to the ground like a stray dog, utterly humiliated. Meanwhile, she sneered, got into a luxury car and drove away without looking back. The internet exploded. Damn, I've seen some crazy things in my time, but this is next-level insanity. Is Mandy's face made of steel? How can someone be this shameless? Not gonna lie though, that was satisfying to watch. Ryan completely deserved it. Now if only the heavens would strike Mandy with lightning next, then justice would truly be served. As if fate had been listening, 3 days later, Mandy was officially arrested by the police. Her biggest secret had been exposed. The explosion at the mall had not been an accident, it was arson. Someone had deliberately set a fire, triggering a gas explosion that resulted in a catastrophe. And the person responsible was none other than Mandy. That day, she had made a bet with someone that she could dine and dash without getting caught. Unfortunately for her, the restaurant staff caught her red-handed and humiliated her in public by forcing her to pay. Enraged, she had sneaked into the restaurant's kitchen with a lighter, setting fire out of spite. In my past life, Mandy had escaped unnoticed in the chaos, only to be trampled by the panicked crowd. She was later declared an unfortunate victim, and her crime was buried forever as an unsolved mystery. But this time, everything changed. As I was running toward the exit that day, I had instinctively reached out and helped a stranger who had fallen. That person turned out to be a well-known food blogger. Coincidentally, he had been inside the restaurant when Mandy was caught. Later, while editing his video, he noticed her sneaking toward the kitchen and reported it to the authorities. And so, the truth was finally revealed. Mandy would now face the harshest punishment the law could deliver. After learning all this, I didn't pay any more attention to the drama. I was fully focused on preparing for my studies abroad. 6 months later, on the day of my departure, my senior approached me with an unusual expression. "Remember that toxic couple who tried to ruin your life?" she asked mysteriously. "They're both dead." I blinked in surprise. She quickly explained. Due to the severity of her crime, Mandy had been sentenced to life in prison. But shortly after the trial, it was discovered that she was pregnant. She had gotten herself pregnant on purpose in hopes of applying for a suspended sentence to avoid jail time. Publicly, she claimed the baby belonged to Ryan. And Ryan, ever the fool, accepted it wholeheartedly, playing the role of a devoted father-to-be. But then, everything spiraled out of control. During one of their meetings, Ryan suddenly doused Mandy in gasoline. As she screamed in terror, he lit a match, smiling as the flames engulfed her. The prison guards tried to intervene, but by the time they got to her, it was too late. Mandy was burned beyond recognition, reduced to nothing but ashes. Ryan, who had been too close to the flames, was also severely burned. His injuries were so extensive that he was barely clinging to life, trapped in unimaginable pain. "He's worse off than a vegetable now," my senior sighed. "A friend of mine works at the hospital where he's being treated." Apparently, Ryan's previous injuries from the explosion had already damaged his nerves. He wasn't even capable of having kids in the first place. That baby was never his. Just then, the airport announcement reminded me to board my flight. My senior waved me off. "Take care of yourself. Don't forget to bring back souvenirs for your big sister." I chuckled, waved goodbye, and turned toward my new future. Everything from the past had faded into dust. Ahead of me was a brand new dawn.